how do I make $100 a day on the internet versus like now I'm like, it changed my identity entirely. Couldn't walk, I couldn't breathe. I had to like do laps around my backyard.
Follow your curiosity, see where it leads you, and you're going to find the right fitment for your journey. Some people might find it selling fucking dog beds, but other people might find it scaling on Amazon.
Millionaires have 7 streams of income. It's true, but it's not what got them there, right? Jeff Bezos did everything all at once on Amazon. And then now he has a million other things. And now he's getting jacked and dating Latinas and, enjoying his life. He wasn't enjoying his life. His desk was his door. He did one business while they were losing money for 20 years, and that's what actually worked. So it's compounding the concentration on skills and business models. Change the way that you're eating, the people that you surround yourself with, even the items that you're buying, the things that you're doing every day, the alcohol, the weed, the drugs you're consuming. The beauty of online business is that anyone can spin up a business and get to 10K a month in a week or two.
You get more money when you get in the gym in the morning, when you got your habits dialed in, when you know what direction you're going in. And most people have no fucking clue. They might be earning 200 grand a month, but they might be stopping themselves from earning $1 million a month if they actually got dialed in.
Stop eating fucking McDonald's. Stop going clubbing every weekend. You don't need to work really 12 or 16 hours a day. But eventually you just need to think deeply about something, go for a walk, hire the right person. It's like a few key strategic things. Like there are times where I grind it out every day and I just have to slam my face, do everything, especially the first month or two. But now I've kind of built a whole team very quickly. So I'm just like a manager. So I wake up and I have 50 DMs a day. Then I have to do some deep work for 2 hours on the specific task that's focused of the day.
It's the honesty with yourself, being honest with yourself as to why you want it. Why do you want this? Why is it important to you? Why is that even the goal?
The only way that you fail is by giving up. Only game that you can play for your entire life. If you're really good at soccer or football or basketball, you can do that from the time you're 5 until maybe you're 35. Then you have to retire. Business is the one game where it never ends. The only way, if your business is struggling, if you're failing, if you're starting, the only way that it actually does not work is not when your business goes bankrupt, because that business failed, but you did not fail. Your career did not end. Then you can just start another one. It's easier than ever to start another one.
If you guys knew how long I've been trying to book this man on the podcast, you'd understand this has been a battle that I've had to pursue for weeks and weeks and weeks. But this man here has absolutely smashed it in the e-com space. Luca Washenko, welcome to the podcast, my man.
Thank you, Frankie. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of traveling, a lot of work, and been pretty tough, but amazing to be here.
No, it's amazing to have you on, mate. I've been tracking what you've been doing, everything you've been doing on TikTok Shop, blowing it up on there, your drop shipping journey, everything like that you've been through. But to give people a bit of an insight into, and obviously Davey Fogarty speaks highly of you as well, which is fantastic. Let's just take it a stage back to, like, obviously you're a young man, but how did you even get started in the e-commerce space?
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to make money online since I was 14. So I was doing reselling, trading crypto, NFTs, started a software company in college, which raised money, didn't go anywhere, had multiple agencies. I did basically every single business model to various degrees of success, but at the end of all of it, it would be make some money, lose some money, make some money, lose some money. And then eventually in college, one of my friends introduced me to a caffeine vape, and he was like, we got some free time, college isn't that hard, let's try and run this up. And started selling it in person, and then eventually moved to selling it on TikTok when I realized that you cannot actually advertise vapes online. So then made my first TikTok, blew up, went viral the first day, did $10,000, and that was more money than I had seen from all my previous ventures where I was making money online, but nothing happened. And I was like, this might be something. There might actually be something there. And then I ran that for a couple months, and we started blowing up a little bit more. I was still making the videos, but it was still kind of a little side hobby. In our 4th month, I ended up in the hospital for a month in a coma, which is a whole other separate story. Didn't end up dying, came out, and I was like, screw everything else. I don't want to do college. I don't want to do a 9-to-5. I don't want to live a normal life. I basically got granted a second chance. This has to be my opportunity. I got to take it. So then for the next 2 years, I went all in on that, and then went from being my own creator, getting millions of views, blowing up, to then building a creator team of 1 in my first month to then 75 creators over the course of 6 months, and then ran that brand until last year where we had a small exit. From there, I then moved on to Amazon, and then we blew up brands using the same strategy. So instead of Shopify, I was put on Amazon, also with a team of creators. And then most recently this year, I've now done it with TikTok Shop. So I've done it across all 3 platforms, but it's been the exact same for the past 3.5 years. And I think now, I was talking to my friend the other day, and he's like, your life has been a series of winding roads across every different business model, TikTok, all these other things. When I joined TikTok, everyone was thinking it was the Charli D'Amelio dancing app. Nobody wanted to touch it. All these big brands were saying that TikTok wasn't the future. It was going to die out. It didn't matter. And now all those brands are trying to join TikTok Shop, And I've been doing it for the past 3.5 years, so we're in the perfect position to take advantage.
Let's just talk through that. There's so much to talk into there, but I want to go into this coma first, and obviously how you ended up in a coma, and kind of what your thought process was coming out of that coma.
Yeah, so the coma was super random. It was this rare disease that about 100 people in the U.S. get a year, and it's almost exclusively for dudes in college, so like 18 to 22 range. My mom actually found a Facebook group, and it was dudes all over the country. There was probably 2 or 3 per state. And the fortunate thing for me was after I got that, I tried like 4 different hospitals across New York City and Long Island. I ended up randomly at this one hospital in Long Island, ended up in the coma, and then 2 weeks in, the doctors were telling my parents, your son probably has another 2 weeks to live. We have no idea what he has, because it wasn't a disease like anything else. And there happened to be one of 3 doctors in the entire country that had studied this exclusively for the past 15 years. That dude was on vacation. He comes back, sees me, and says, you're doing it all wrong, gives me the right antibiotics, and within a week, I'm back alive, and I'm awake, and I'm talking to my family again. So one, that I found that hospital because there were many people, unfortunately, like kids in Nebraska, that just did not get the care they needed, and they did not have the same outcome I did. And then 2, that doctor happened to come back from vacation. So I am forever indebted to that guy, that hospital, and my family for really getting me through that.
And that was literally then the most pivotal point in your life, because you decided right then and there that you're not playing about anymore. You got a second chance at life. So I want to do it right now. How I earn my money online has to be congruent to what I want to do, right?
Exactly. And I like I said before, I was kind of always interested in business. I kind of always liked making money online, but it was like a little side hustle. It was like the kids searching, how do I make $100 a day on the internet, versus like now I'm like, this is me. It changed my identity entirely, and then changed the course of my life where I'm like, this is my focus, this is my passion. And then downstream of that, how can I take care of my family who took care of me? Like, how can I build my own hospital? Whatever I want to do later on with the money, but the business is the core goal from that. So then as soon as I got out, and then there was a whole recovery process. I couldn't walk, I couldn't breathe. I had to like do laps around my backyard. I could do 1 lap, then 3 laps, then 5 laps. Once I could walk, once I could speak, once I could talk, once I could breathe again, which I crazy even saying that I need to relearn those things. Then I was like, with a passion. Then I was finding kids on Discord to do my homework for me. I was trying to get my friends to join the business. I hired all my friends, my family. We started scaling it up. We started going crazy. Made a whole lot of mistakes along the way. But most importantly was because I took it seriously, because I flipped that switch, and I was like, this is the most important thing. Then I accelerated way faster. And then over the last 3 years, I've done so much more than the previous 10 years where I was kind of just like dabbling online, not taking it too seriously.
So what's your advice then, Luca, to the people out there that say they want to scale their entrepreneurship journey, or they want to scale their e-com brand? What is your like piece of advice to give them that paradigm shift, the same kind of switch that went off in your head to focus on the one thing, on the thing that you needed to focus on? How can they get that switch today?
I think the unfortunate part is that it would be hard for me to give advice, because for any person that's in a situation where they would ready to hear that advice, they wouldn't need me, right? They would already be in that position. And then for the other people, they're going to hear it and they're going to say, well, this is what everyone else says. I've seen this on a million other podcasts, and they're not actually going to take any action. What I would say is you don't need to have that switch immediately like I didn't. All I needed was to start my journey. And it didn't need to be, and I certainly did not find the one thing that I think is going to make me wealthy and be like the business driver, which is TikTok and TikTok Shop. That was, like I said, a winding journey. So as long as you start on that path and don't think, is this something that I'm passionate about? Is this something I'm going to do for 10 years? Because certainly when I was reselling sneakers at 14, I didn't think I was going to do that for 10 years. And I didn't. I did it for a year, then I hopped to the next thing. It's kind of like when I was going to college, my mom was telling me, like, you may not like a lot of the classes that you take. In fact, you're probably going to dislike most of them. But for all the things that you dislike, it helps you so much because it tells you, I don't want to do that. It's shutting off the doors. And you want to shut off as many doors as possible until you find the one thing that you're good at, that you can do every day, that's valuable to society. And then you go all in on that. It's very hard to focus at the beginning because you don't have any context. You don't know. You're just picking like a random business model you saw in a video on YouTube, and you're like, this is what I'm going to do for the next 10 years. And then you do it for a month and you hate it, right? But then you can just pivot on and on and just keep going. As long as you don't quit, then eventually you should find that one thing, and then you go all in.
So it's essentially like follow your curiosity as far as and see where it leads you, and you're going to find the right fitment for your journey. Because, like, you know, some people might find it selling fucking dog beds, but other people might find it scaling on Amazon, and other people might find it somewhere else on their journey. But, like, essentially what you've done is you've followed the curiosity, and then you've identified a clear pattern, and that clear pattern was, like, find the platform, but then find the creators that can create the content to be able to sell on these platforms. And then you've just transferred that from one platform to the next platform and then onto TikTok Shop, right?
Yeah, because what I realized for myself was that I wasn't like in love with Shopify. I'm not even in love with TikTok Shop or Amazon. I tend to chase the best opportunity that fits to my skill set. And my skill set is being able to manage and make TikToks and use creators to go viral consistently. And then whatever we throw that to, I could even be running an app. I don't want to do software, so I'm not going to go in that direction. But point being, it's like whatever the link in bio is, whatever the creators are driving traffic to ultimately doesn't matter. I just love building that whole system such that I can throw in any product, any offer, any app, whatever it is, and then we can blow that app, get hundreds of millions of views, and then drive sales. And then at the moment, it's like Shopify was the best thing 4 years ago. Amazon was the best thing a year ago, and now I believe TikTok Shop is the best thing probably for the next couple of years, as long as TikTok Shop doesn't get banned, right? So I'm kind of just looking what's the best opportunity cost for my skill set, whereas I think a lot of other people are just watching videos and it's like comparing what's the easiest way to make $1,000, $10,000, which I think you can do in the beginning, but luckily I was able to get past that, so now I'm thinking what's the best way to get to 8 figures and then sell a company, and for me, I believe that's TikTok Shop.
So what in regards to the TikTok Shop, tell me how you started on there and how you started to identify this as a clear winning platform for you. Because obviously you'd had success on these other platforms, but you've literally pivoted straight off them onto TikTok and gone full in on TikTok now.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits is like I might be a little bit late to the game. Like I was certainly late to Amazon and even late to Shopify. I discovered dropshipping 6 or 7 years ago. But I was watching too many videos and I was like too invested in like I have to learn everything and I was too scared of starting. So if I had just started and you know, back when I was doing it, it's like you could throw up random ads and you would get a 10 ROAS and you could just scale that way. But I waited too long because I was too scared. But when I do jump in, then I go crazy. So once I realized, okay, Amazon works much better than Shopify, then we scaled that up insanely hard. We were hiring as many creators as we could get our hands on. And then the same thing with TikTok Shop. When it was in beta, I was seeing Gurananda, I was seeing all these other brands that were blowing up, and I was like, I don't really know. I don't know if it's going to be nearly as big. There's all these problems with the platform. There were, but what I failed to recognize is like if you can overcome the problems with the platform early on, that's actually a moat. Because there's going to be a lot of people that will see that and think, well, it's super risky. Well, I don't know if it's going to be long lasting. Because of that, the competition is so low. And then as a result, if you can overcome the sync issues, the listing issues, the no customer service, random deactivations, and you can get all the way through that, that's how we've seen brands on TikTok Shop go from 0 to literally $8 million a month in less than a year. Because they took the risk, they took the leap. And I've kind of had to repurpose my brain where it's like, I don't want to go for the safest option. I don't want to think necessarily like, oh, I have to get all these different business models, all these different streams of income. You'll see these videos like millionaires have 7 streams of income. And it's true, but it's not what got them there, right? Jeff Bezos did everything all at once on Amazon. And then now he has a million other things. And now he's getting jacked and dating Latinas and, you know, enjoying his life. He wasn't enjoying his life. His desk was his door. And it was like him spray painting Amazon. And he did one business while they were losing money for 20 years. And that's what actually worked. So it's compounding the concentration on skills and business models. And then for me, it's like pivoting when the time is right? So focus on Shopify, then Amazon and TikTok Shop. But that being said, if you are not a creative person, if you don't like working with creators, if you don't like viral videos, if you've never used TikTok, I'm not saying do TikTok Shop. In fact, there are people who are going to make more money, you know, running a laundromat business that they're really passionate about, they work 12 hours a day on for 10 years, then they try to pivot to the hot new shiny thing, which I think TikTok Shop is. And it's really worked really well for me because I didn't jump to the new shiny object. I just happened to be doing TikTok for so long, and then all of a sudden it's in vogue, and now every agency I open Instagram, I have a new ad every day. I'll get you TikTok Shop creators, the TikTok Shop AI videos, and I'm like, these guys 6 months ago were selling you drop shipping, 6 months before that we're selling you crypto, 6 months before that we're doing ChatGPT. You know, it's just whatever the newest thing is, and we tend to block out the noise, and it's like as long as we're focused on our one thing, and then if I do TikTok for 10 years, I'm happy with it, and then I'll just be like one of the best guys on TikTok, and then I know that if you were the best in your category, there's no competition, like there's no one else. And that's really been our philosophy with everything.
So break down how it actually works on TikTok Shop then. Are you drop shipping products on TikTok Shop from straight from China or wherever you're getting them made, or how does that work?
Oh yeah, totally. So in terms of TikTok Shop, it's a little bit different than Shopify because Shopify is just your own website and Shopify is just like a backend. So you don't interact with anyone else. It's not a marketplace. Amazon and TikTok Shop are different because Amazon's reputation is now on the line because a customer is buying not only from your store but also Amazon. And in most cases, on TikTok Shop, they're just buying your product on TikTok Shop. I get, DMs from customers all the time where they don't realize I'm even a third-party seller. Most customers have no idea about that. They think that TikTok's just selling all the products, right? So TikTok Shop, as a result, then has to implement a lot of policies around what you can sell, what you can say, making sure you have the right reviews and they're not manipulated. And then as a result, where you can ship from. And shipping times is a huge issue. So this is where you get into some of the bugs and the issues because you get a lot of violation points. And violation points are for each infraction that TikTok Shop deems. If you get enough of those, you literally just get banned. You get wiped off. This does not happen with Shopify, so it is very different. So one point with that is that you need to be able to check in with a carrier like USPS, UPS, FedEx within 2 days of shipping. If you don't, and they don't have a valid tracking number, this is to prevent scammers, then you get violation points, you get fucked. So you cannot sell from China. You need to have 3 to 5 day shipping time in the US. Now, there are certainly ways to dropship within the US. That's a little bit different, depending on what product that you're running. But the shipping times is a primary focus. Typically, you would need your 3PL to be shipping same day or next day. And then even then, there's still going to be all these issues. So I know people in the beginning, they were doing Chinese dropshipping. Then they would do the thing where it wouldn't show it was from China. It would resend to USPS by the time it got to the US. But if you got even 7 to 10 day shipping, which is good for dropshipping, you're going to get smoked. You're going to get banned within 2 months. And TikTok will not even let you scale because they put order limits. Where for the first month, you can only do 200 orders a day. And they will also hold all of your money, which I've been posting on Twitter. I have almost $350,000 on hold at the moment. So if we were scamming customers, I would not be getting that $350,000. That would just be going straight to TikTok for all the refunds and disputes. So we had to switch as well because we were getting stuff from China. Now we have everything made in the US shipping, all of that. And then we have to really make sure, this is where the beauty of the marketplaces come in. It's our customer experience was good. Our product was good on Shopify, but we could get away with good. With this, we now literally need to have a 4.6, 4.7, 4.8 star customer experience, response times, refunds, disputes, claims, product quality, making sure that the marketing we claims, we can't say this does X, Y, and Z, it cures cancer or something crazy. It actually needs to be in line with what the product does. So I think actually being on a marketplace forces you to be way better as a person running a business.
There's just hearing you explain that, there's more of a moat around this than what I originally thought. There's so many barriers to entry along that, and so many fail points. So if someone's listening to this, they've got an e-commerce brand or they've got a brand that they want to launch on Shopify shop, TikTok shop, sorry. What would be the stages that you would advise them to go through to make sure that it hits the right points? So in terms of price point, where's it made, quality, all this stuff. Take me through every step that you'd go through to make sure it qualifies for even being sold on that platform.
Yeah, so first would be on the shipping. If they're a brand, depends. They might do branded drop shipping, but you would need to have inventory in the US. You also couldn't really be an international brand because you can only sell to the US as well. So you'd have to have it in a US 3PL, primary audience being US because TikTok Shop only sells to those. Then in terms of price point, you could go as low as $10, but chances are if you're a Facebook ads brand or something else, you're probably higher AOV, which does help for Facebook. We have seen some stuff up to $100, $150, especially in the tech niche for they're selling gaming chairs, they're selling treadmills. That does work, but typically the best price point is between $20 and $50. So in that range, potentially if you were a Facebook brand where you could increase your AOV through bundles and upsells and everything, and your core SKU was just $20 to $40, that would be perfect. Then you could just sell one of those, and if you wanted to bundle on top. The other thing would be if you're super reliant on subscription revenue and bundling, those don't really work. So they don't have subscriptions at all. So it's kind of just profitable on the first purchase. But in terms of pricing, there's some flexibility there. You can also do flash sales. And typically with TikTok, you pay creators on a commission. So that would be anywhere from 10% to 30% for a sale. So the way that I think about this, because I actually started with Facebook ads before I moved over, is each creator is kind of like an ad set. And then the commission is determining the ROAS. So a lot of people will be like, 30% commission, that's insane. I only give 5%, 10%. If you convert that to a ROAS of 3.3, every brand owner on earth would be begging Zuck, please give me 3.3 ROAS, right? If you give 20%, that's a 5 ROAS. Like, imagine your margins if you could scale to 7 figures a month, which is very possible on TikTok Shop, and you only had to pay 20% of your revenue to TikTok Shop instead of 50% in many cases to Zuck. So that is why it's a lot more amenable. Now, what I will say is that you have to be prepared for the ups and downs. So this is where the inventory planning becomes very difficult. And shout out my boy Davey Fogarty. He launched like a whole 2-hour course on e-commerce operations. So I would highly recommend you watch that video. But the inventory planning is actually something that we have struggled with, because you can do nothing and then all of a sudden you have a creator blow up and then boom, you do $60,000 in a day when before you're doing $5,000 or $10,000. So that's another thing that would be different from Facebook, is making sure you have a lot of stock on hand, your lead times aren't too long, especially if you're shipping from China, because Facebook, you can control it a lot more. If I give this in the hands of 500 creators, I could do $500 and I could do $500,000. And once it's in their hands, once they're making videos, I have no control. So that's also another thing psychologically, that there's the pro and the con. It's a double-edged sword. Some people love TikTok Shop because they're amazing. I don't have to do any marketing. I don't have to make the ads. I don't have to run anything. I don't have to make the creatives. There's no oversight. For other people, more like myself, where I'm used to kind of micromanaging people, and it's like, I'll work 16-hour days if I need to do everything myself. Then it's a little bit frustrating where sometimes I'll send out the products and then they're going to make whatever video they want. They're not going to use your script. They're not going to say all the right things and the benefits and how you want it to, right? It's not UGC scripting. You're not writing out, here's the brief, here's the shots, everything. It's more like, here's an outline and then go to work. In many cases, they're going to come up with their own random story of whatever happens, which is also the beauty of it, because sometimes there will be a new angle that you never even thought of. So you're kind of decentralizing the marketing now to hundreds and hundreds of people. Most of those people have no idea what they're doing, but there are some people, and especially like the top affiliates, who are going to think of stuff that you never thought of. Like, they're creators. They are creative at the end of the day. So there's a beauty in the madness, and we kind of have a whole way how we can kind of bring some of that back in and start managing some of the creators. But the majority of people are just running a bot, which will just DM thousands of creators a day. Those creators ask for a free sample plus a commission. You send it out to those creators, and like I said, once it's in their hands, then you kind of hope it goes viral.
Well, have you ever been in the case where you've had a product go viral, it's done like 2-3 million, but you sold out when it had already, when you've done 500k views on that TikTok alone, it had already sold out, and then you're left there trying to scramble, trying to get more of this product because you got this TikTok thing going viral, but you can't even get enough product in there?
Dude, with my last brand, we literally caused a global shortage in the product because we scaled so fast. So we were ordering shit from all over it was from China, from Europe, from US. We had like 20 different suppliers. So it was absolutely insane. It was like every week we get new inventory, then sell it out. Then again. I think we sold out 15 times. And we launched in September. So as we were scaling up, we were going into Q4. So it's Black Friday and all of our creators are going crazy. We got 150 million views in a month. And then we just launched, so it's like you're launching with kind of a test budget, and then all of a sudden it scales too quickly. So it was like they're on the good side, it's a good problem to have because you solve the marketing part. But I typically think of e-commerce in terms of like the trifecta of like marketing, inventory, and cash flow, and you need to solve for each one. And I adhere to the law of constraints or bottlenecks. So it's like, what is the bottleneck at each time? For most people, which is why most of the discourse on Twitter, on YouTube, whatever, is like, let's talk about marketing, because everyone wants more sales. Most people don't know how to market. So then they're going to have a marketing problem, which is they have enough cash to pay for everything. They have enough inventory. They just need to sell it. And now it's, what is the ad strategy? What is the creative strategy? Whatever. With this, and because we have such a good creator team and we have so much experience, the marketing gets solved within the first 2 months. And then if the marketing gets solved too well, now we have to solve for the inventory problem. But what ends up happening is, and this is where I have talked on Twitter for the past 2 months, is Shopify will give you 3-day payouts. And occasionally they will put your money on hold and everyone cries out like, oh my God, Shopify, blah, blah, blah. And it's because you scaled too fast or refunds, disputes, whatever else. I never took those 3-day payouts. I was never grateful for them. That was just my default. When I got on TikTok Shop, when I tell you that I looked at the finance tab and it said I had a 45-day payout by default, no problems, no refunds, no disputes, 5 stars on everything, 45 days. So all of a sudden, I'm dumping more money into inventory, more money into creators, paying out more commissions. We're scaling up from 0 to 20K a day in like a month or two, and none of the money is getting my bank account. So now we go from marketing to now we have a cash flow problem. And because we get no cash, now it's time to order another 20,000 units. And where's the cash going to come from? So this is where it really becomes a difficult problem. It's like either you need to have existing cash, existing experience, or you need to scale super slowly. And for me, that's just not a problem. I want to scale as fast as possible.
Well, this is what I was trying to work out on Twitter the other day. I was following you. I've been following you for a long time, years. But over the last couple of months, I've seen you spend hundreds of thousands on the Amex trying to keep this thing going, trying to keep this trajectory going. And you must be now at the point where you're running on fumes in terms of trying to fuel this thing with cash.
Yeah, and Amex is not helping. I've talked to basically every credit card provider. I've talked to like some of these weird merchant cash advances places that say it's only a 5% fee, but it actually, if you do the math, it's like 50% APY. It's absolutely insane. I've talked to like the new startup credit cards, like the Brexes and Ramps and all of those, and then the Amexes, the Capital Ones. It's just tough. We launched the LLC a couple months ago. All of a sudden, we're doing all this revenue. It's super high risk for everyone. So Amex, we got approved, and then I'm spending it down basically like a debit card because they won't increase my limit. Every time I call, they're like, "You don't have a limit, sir." I'm like, "Why are my payments getting declined then?" And they're like, "We'll look into whatever we're doing." I've called them probably 20, 30 times. Can't get a new card, can't get the limit increased. Same for Chase, same for Capital One. So you're kind of in a pinch where you cannot get credit because you're so new, or the credit is going to be so absurdly expensive. It's insane. But then you cannot grow because you don't have enough cash flow. Now, thankfully for us, me and my partner, we've all, been in e-commerce for the past couple of years. Like we have some money saved up. Worst case, I got a bunch in crypto that's like I don't want to liquidate because I would take a loss, but this is obviously more important. And also a note on investing while we're on the topic is I had always been on the philosophy where it's like cash flow from your business and then you kind of don't put that back in and just throw it into crypto, S&P, whatever other investments, angel investments, which I've done, and most of those have gone to zero. So I think the angel investing thing is a little bit overhyped. Even if you have some information, it's like most of the time, I'm just like supporting my friends' businesses at this point. I'm just throwing money here and there, and I'm watching one business I put 50K in go to zero right now. It's like we're just here for the journey, But on the investing side, it's like maybe you get 10, 15, 20% in the S&P if you're lucky. Maybe you pick Nvidia, you get 50%. Maybe you pick crypto, you get 100%. But if you just do the math on how much money it takes to buy inventory, what your profit margin is when you sell that inventory, and how long it takes you to sell through that, right? You will find out very quickly that you can double or triple your money within 2 or 3 months, and then do that over and over and over again. And the process of doubling or tripling your money then adds equity or enterprise value to your business, which is another 3 to 4x multiple on that when you do sell the business. So there's a lot of things that have to go right, but also you are in control. So you're getting a higher rate of return, which then can be multiplied when you sell it. You're in control of how much it goes up or down, and you're also building the cash flow for the future. So for me,
so Luca,
this year was like, do less investing, do less angel investing, invest in yourself, invest in your own business, and that will scale so much higher.
I love that you've said that, because basically what you're saying is if any e-commerce money that I'm making, I should have stuck it on the sidelines, ready to invest in my own brand, control my own variable, and understand exactly. So you're basically what you're saying is I'm going to operate in my window of competence. I'm not going to step outside of it and try and diversify and all this stuff, because I'm at a point in my life where if I just go into what I know, I understand the ROAS, I understand how to get this to market, I understand how to sell it, I understand all this stuff. Why wouldn't I invest the money and back myself? Because now I've got a problem is I've invested in all these friends' businesses, I've invested in the S&P 500, I've invested in crypto, but now I need cash to scale this product. I don't have that because I've invested in all this other stuff, is basically what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's either like a math problem or a competence problem, or it's like you just have to look at it, and I just never did that. And it's like now that we're talking about it, it seems like it makes so much more sense. It's like I'm not the dude spending 24 hours on his computer and every Telegram and Discord and crypto Twitter, and like maybe I give my money to them and they handle it, but it's like then I'm relying on another person. I'm not going to spend all my time analyzing stocks. I got friends who work at hedge funds. They love that shit. They love reading 10Ks and 10Qs and doing DCFs and cash flow models on businesses. That was my past life, 4 or 5 years ago when I was working in banking. So unless you're going to be living in that and you're going to be the 0.1%, the 0.01%, because in business, in investing, and in many parts of life, all of the spoils go to the top 1%. It's like the 80-20 rule on steroids, right? Like if you are the best investor, you just get all of the money. It's not like you get like a proportionally larger amount. And that's kind of the same thing with TikTok Shop, kind of to bring it back, is that another thing that if you're trying to get on the platform, and something that we've thought about, is what is the existing demand structure look like? Like how big can these brands actually get to if you're talking about like a TAM, which doesn't matter so much when you're starting, you just want to get to 10K a month. But if you're thinking, can this actually scale to $1 million a month, 5 million a month, 10 million a month? You have to think about that. And then also, is there a leading category? Because the same exact thing happens on TikTok Shop. If we're talking about affiliates who are incentivized to make the most money and have no loyalty to your customers, these are mercenaries, not missionaries. They're primarily driven by views and money because they don't care about your brand. You have no ties to them. So unless you start building those relationships, which we have done, and I highly suggest that you do, which overcomes that gap, so then they become a missionary. They care about your mission. They care about you, so they will work for less money and less views than they would for a competitor if you do not have that, which you will not in the beginning. And there is an existing brand running almost the exact same product because most people are dropshipping, most people are white labeling. We're not inventing stuff, most people don't have patents. And you're selling a very similar product, and they already have 100,000 sold, which is public on TikTok Shop. Amazon started doing this as well. So they can see that brand's bigger. That brand has 1,000 reviews. That brand has 10 affiliates who've gone viral, and it has their public commissions. You can just go to Kalo data and see another affiliate made $10,000 in the last week. And then there's your brand that just started, has 100 sold, has 1 review, which is your mom. And then you have no affiliates who made any money. If I am an affiliate that does revenue and can drive sales, which one am I picking? It's every single time going to be the larger brand. So the exact same thing's happening. If you are the number 1 or the number 2 in some cases in your category, you don't get some more of the affiliates. You get all of the affiliates. They don't even see your brand. Like it does not even exist in their mind. And you try and send a bot message to them. And some of these affiliates we have in our community who've done $500,000, $1 million in revenue for brands. If you look at their DMs, it's not like a couple messages a day. It's 50 DMs every single day. They're not going to pick you over anyone else, right? So the bots are kind of saturated. The hardest part is getting the launch strategy. How do you get off to start the flywheel? Because once you do, then you get onto people's For You pages because these affiliates are using TikTok and they're scrolling. They see enough videos of you. They see enough affiliates making money. They see enough sales, and then the dollar signs start flashing in their eyes, and then they reach out automatically. They request a free sample and they post. So how do you get to
Give me the launch strategy, Luca. You've got it. Give me the sauce. Give me the launch strategy. I want to hear this, bro. I unlock the door for me. Unlock the door.
Yeah. So the real sauce here, and it's going to be a little bit frustrating to a lot of viewers because it is not replicable. But that's also why I can share it with you. Is that over the last 2.5 years, we've built up communities of thousands of TikTok creators, Shopify affiliates, and people that know how to go viral and make money. They've worked on my brands, my partners' brands, people that we have worked with. So they are highly trained, highly motivated, and they have been doing this for, in some cases, like 24 months before TikTok Shop existed, then moved on. Because we have that community, and in many cases, we help these people make their first $1 online to now we have people making over $100,000 in profit. We have now overcome that gap from mercenary to missionary. So now they're like, well, Luca, you helped me make my first dollar. They talk to my business partner. They're like, I want to be on your brand even when it launches. So when we launched with 40 creators from the jump posting. So all of those people could help us overcome. And now we've gotten to, I don't know, $25,000 sold. So now we're starting to get in more of the external affiliates just from TikTok itself. So in most cases, people think that TikTok Shop is a game of getting all these random people to post videos for you. I think that is the way, the end state, the end goal when you're getting, $1 million, $2 million a month, you're going to get random people posting and whatever, and it's out of your control. But ideally, you have the flywheel. But the launch strategy is taking people from our community, bringing them onto our brand. They are basically the only people posting. We give them all the scripts, we give them all the briefs, we review their content every single day. We give them specific criteria for what they can and can't say and how we want to direct them. And then we also give them creative freedom, and then we heavily incentivize them with very high commissions and also money per video posting, no matter what. If they get 200 views, we still pay them. And then we also do like different leaderboards where I've told some of my creators if they do $100,000 for me in a month, I'll buy them a Rolex. If they want a Van Cleef, I'll buy them that. If they want a Cartier, I'll buy them that. Now, no one's gotten to it yet. I'll say one of our creators is very close, and you can see I don't wear watches, so I'll have to become acquainted with my authorized dealer, but I'm in New York City, so it shouldn't be too hard. But giving the heavy incentive for them that like, there's a reason that you're going to pick us over other people. It's one, going to be the loyalty to me because I helped you in the past. 2, you're going to be around other really good creators. 3, we're going to give you the management, the briefs, the opportunities, the case studies, everything that you need so you have the most resources. And then 4, a fuck ton of money and a nice watch. So you have to overload them with value because these are the people that are going to make you rich, but you have to make them rich too. And I want us all to come up together, and then if that's going to build the biggest business, rather than pinching pennies, trying to compress their commissions, not pay them nearly as much. I want to overpay them for the work that they're doing because I know I'm going to get a 3.3 ROAS on $2 million in revenue. Like, I can't get that anywhere else.
Quick one for you guys. This podcast is sponsored by contentremover.com. As many of you are probably aware, I set up contentremoval.com in 2017 to help people remove all forms of online content. And I've looked after some of the biggest names and brands in the world doing it. And I would love to help you if you're struggling. If you're struggling to remove images, videos, search results, fake accounts, or anything online, go to contentremoval.com and we'll help you today. Do you see every platform pivot into this model then? Do you see like Instagram going to pivot to this, Facebook, every platform?
Yeah, so Instagram is notorious for just copying everything. I mean, they copied Snapchat Stories. That did very well for them. Now they're bigger than Snapchat. They copied IG Reels. Have not overtaken TikTok, but IG Reels is virtually 90% of like their usage now. Nobody really just interacts with each other's posts. It's all prioritizing the creators, the stories, the Reels. They're going to do the same thing. They're already getting inklings of a beta of IG Shop. Some of my creators have showed me that. We haven't yet gone on because it's just still too new. I don't even know how it works. I haven't even seen that yet. But I would say they're probably going to have a similar rollout to TikTok Shop, which is they had a beta last year, I think in July, which I guess it's a full year now. And then they had a 6-month beta, and then they launched in December. So then it's been another 6 months since. I would say 2025 is probably going to be the year of IG Shop. YouTube is also doing the same thing, but YouTube is going a different direction. So Shopify just announced that they're doing a partnership where you can link videos in your YouTube, but it directs to your shop. Now, that's great if you're a Shopify seller because you don't have to come onto the platform. But like I've said before, I actually think there's a lot of beauty and benefit to being on the marketplace. The reason Amazon works so well, whereas Shopify is not a name that any consumer knows, is because Amazon's front facing and then will do the customer service, will have the fast shipping time, will ensure that you're getting products that actually work. They're not going to kill you. They moderate the reviews. TikTok is doing the same thing. Now, what will be difficult for IG? Because the reason Shopify is having a different path is because Shopify about 3 or 4 years ago bought a company called Deliver for $5 billion. They recently wrote down the value of that to zero. Like they just wiped away. They threw $5 billion in a trash can. Now Deliver was a 4PL, which meant that they were contracting with all these different 3PL warehouses to then ship out to customers, and they were going to do the last mile delivery. We actually looked at using them for our product. I didn't really actually like the company, as I think that acquisition was kind of doomed from the start. But Shopify was going to build the infrastructure for the internet, similar to what Amazon has done. Now, they failed in doing so, which is why I think they're not going to do the same thing, because the next level for TikTok Shop, and they're already doing this, and they're going to compete with Amazon, is they contracted with ShipBob, which is another 4PL that raised $100 million, and then they used their warehouses for 6 months. Now, they just announced that they're building their own warehouses, and they're going to compete with Amazon to eventually have their own logistics, their own warehouses, and I predict by next year, almost every brand is going to have to be using TikTok's warehouses. It's not a matter of dropshipping a brand. It's like your inventory will have to be in their hands, and then you pay them to ship it out. The same way that you have Amazon FBA, you're going to have TikTok Shop FBT. That's the direction they're going to go, because you have to use that to ensure that the shipping times, the quality, the reviews are the best. They need to be customer focused, because ultimately the customers are going to come, and then the brands, if there's enough customers there, the brands see the money, and then the brands have to operate within your guidelines. And Amazon has gotten stricter and stricter over time. More brands have still gone there, because wherever the money is, I will deal with the bullshit. I will deal with the compliance. I will deal with the cash flow issues if I can see dollar signs at the end of the rainbow. A customer has like one small issue, like a thing doesn't work or you don't get a refund, they're never coming back. They're going to Temu, right? So they're going to be very customer focused. And ultimately, the question is, which direction is IG going to go? Because if they just have IG Shop and they don't do this, I think in the long term, they're going to lose. And Shopify is already basically saying with this announcement, we're going to have this partnership, so we're going to do a slight variation of it, but it's really going to be similar to their partnership with Facebook, where it's just driving more traffic, and then they can add on that incremental revenue so they get payment processing, but they're really not a competitor to TikTok Shop, whereas TikTok Shop and Amazon are, and then IG is kind of a question mark at this point.
So if as a listener of this podcast, what should they do? Should they prepare themselves to get into that, blue ocean, which is going to be this coming of age of like Instagram Shop and IG Shop and all that stuff? Or should they actually try, even though the ship sailed and there are many people that have been on this platform selling on TikTok Shop for X amount of years like you have, should they dive into that, or should they just wait now until this YouTube Shop or IG Shop and try and take the blue ocean? Yeah,
so I think it kind of depends on the stage of your brand and what you're doing. I would say if you don't have an existing brand, if you're starting from scratch, TikTok Shop is in its infancy. A lot of people are saying it's too saturated, it's too crazy, there's too many brands. Like, the biggest brand on TikTok Shop maybe does 5 million a month. There's 9-figure brands that will probably sell for $1 billion that are Amazon only, right? Amazon is way bigger. Like, this is Amazon in 2012. This is Facebook in 2016. So, I was watching videos on Facebook in 2016 when people were like, drop shipping is dead, Facebook is too hard. We look at that and laugh because the CPMs have quadrupled since then, and it's way difficult. Like, the saturation just means that and this is kind of getting to a broader point where I don't think competition actually exists. If there is saturation, if there's a lot of brands, if there's a lot of revenue moving through, that just means there's a lot of demand. That means that the market is huge. Like, if you look at some of the biggest markets, like water, there are infinite water brands that are all undifferentiated, but there are still billions and billions and billions of dollars, and there are billions of brands. Like, Nestle is worth $20 billion, and all they do is water, right? So, like, just because there's a lot of demand, just because there's a lot of other brands, now if it has reached that saturation point, like I said, where there's top 5 brands on TikTok Shop with your specific category in that vertical for that marketing angle, you got to think creative, right? So they could sell the same product and you sell it in a different way, right? Like AG1, there's been green powders for years, but nobody was using Huberman and Joe Rogan on all these products and also pricing it to the max where it appealed to all the tech bros and it was getting your nutrients in one day in one scoop. So AG1 took an undifferentiated product because greens have been around for 30 years, built a $1 billion brand. I mean, Celsius did the same thing. Prime did the same thing. So you just have to think, what is going to be my strategic advantage? Can I market to a new angle? Can I have differentiated packaging? Can I have differentiated branding? Is there going to be some partnerships that I have? Is there a unique advantage? For me, of course, the TikTok advantage is there. So if you're just starting out, you can build that advantage and just grow with TikTok Shop. I know kids that are 16, 17 years old that have TikTok Shop agencies making 50, 100K a month. And 6 months ago, they were in my DM saying, hey bro, how do I get to 10K a month? And now they have figured it out because nobody knows anything with TikTok Shop, and it is such a wild west. If you can get a rep, if you can figure out some violations, if you can get some creators, all you need is to latch on to a couple key points and then find the right brands that want it. There is so much demand from brands to get on a TikTok Shop. Brands like Crocs are getting on, like Lancome, like huge brands you're only seeing in Sephora and the mall. And now they want to get on. And imagine what budget Crocs has. How much money is going to be in a Crocs if you can get that deal, right? So if you're just starting out, I would 100% recommend that you do it. If you're kind of a mid brand where you're in that 10K to 250K a month, I would probably keep scaling whatever works for you. I wouldn't get distracted. I would put the blinders on, and if you're positive ROAS on Facebook and you're getting 20-30% margins, just like crank the ad spend, get better at that, dial in, watch some common thread collectives, they'll probably help you out, watch Davey Fogarty videos, right? Dial in your LP. There's so many other things you can do, and there's brands that are Facebook only that do 10 million a month. They don't touch TikTok Shop. Now, if you're above that 7-figure range and you've kind of already stabilized, you built out the team on Facebook, and you're like, we're ready to tackle a new marketing channel because we're starting to see some of that efficiency drop on the Facebook side, then I would say the top 2 would be Amazon or TikTok Shop, and that's going to depend. If you have a product where you can see on Amazon there is some like white label space and there's not 50 other listings and you can fit in there, that can certainly work. But also, if you've been doing Facebook, you probably have built a whole creative system. You built the editors, you built the VAs, you built the operations, the creative waterfall, the sheets, the tracking. You just did that for Facebook. So just take the exact operating system you've already built, and now you need to just rebuild it for TikTok Shop, which sounds like a lot of work, and it is. But if you crack that, $1 million a month at high margins lands on the other side of that. So I would say, depending where you land in that stack, like I was describing, and if you're 8-9 figures, like there's literally no reason you shouldn't throw $100,000 at TikTok Shop like tomorrow. Like it's going to be like negligible, but $100,000 will get you some big ass creators, some good partnerships, and a real crack at it. Maybe it doesn't work and you just burn that to the ground, but I've seen some huge brands burn millions of dollars on some other bullshit that has literally no chance. In TikTok Shop case, 100K for an 8 or 9 figure brand, the downside is capped at 100K. The upside is you build a new 7-figure a month channel that ends up being $3, $4, $5 million a year in profit, go straight to your bottom line. Plus, not to mention the increased awareness of doing 100 million views, where now all your Facebook ads are essentially retargeting, which will allow you to spend more at a higher ROAS. And it flows over to retail, it flows over to Amazon. Like, it doesn't make sense not to do it.
So what have you got your best performing brand? What have you scaled it to now per month?
Best brands doing around 4 million a month. Current brands doing around, we did 750 in the end of June. And then we're aiming for next month to do around 1.3, 1.4. Inventory willing. So the goal with this one is to get to, I would say, 2 million a month by, Black Friday. If we can do that, then I would be pretty excited.
And then what point do you decide to sell it? Because I know that you're building them to sell these time.
Yeah, I think it really depends on. So this is where it becomes very difficult thinking about how you sell a business. So I fucked this up with my first brand. So like I said, we had a small exit because really at the end of the day, after working for 3 years, I probably would have made more just working in banking and getting a high salary there for much less of the stress. So I actually fucked it up, and I talked with a lot of people who were older, wiser, and had more experience than me, and they kind of drilled into my mind all the things that I did wrong, which would be that when you are selling a business, one, it has to kind of get yourself out of the operations. That was the main problem, was that I was doing everything and I had all this knowledge in my brain, but the acquirers are not going to be TikTok people, because you have to think about who are the people that have money. TikTok has not been around long enough, so it's going to be dudes that grew up in the Facebook era that had Amazon brands, private equity firms, strategic acquirers who are in whatever, health or beauty or tech or whatever. So they're going to be looking at a higher level. They're probably going to be installing a CEO, or they're going to have like you run it on an earnout. Now, ideally, you don't want to have an earnout, which is where you get paid over the course of like another 2 years, because when I want to sell my business, I want to sell it free and clear, maybe work for another 6 months, and then I'm out of there. So figuring out how the business can operate without me, either by installing another CEO, which I've actually talked with someone who's done. I don't think we'd probably have to get to $50-70 million a year to really make that feasible. But you could do that. That would be the end stage, where you're basically just an investor in your own business. That makes it the easiest to sell, because if you're not even running it and there's a CEO who then has a comp package, which it doesn't include 100% of the equity, which I have, and I'm not paying myself, and he's getting paid $500K a year plus some bonus on the back end, then when they buy the business, they just swap me out for the investor, and the CEO keeps cooking. And like, he's already worked, and then all they do, and this is the other side, is that you need to grow it to sufficient size to increase your multiples. So my business was only doing like $2 or $3 million a year. You get like 2 or 3x on your profit. Now, if you can get to, and this is where we're aiming, to the 50 to 100 million a year mark, this is where you can get 2 or 3x on revenue. And we have actually seen this with a couple acquisitions recently. So that's where it changes, where you get like to the software multiples where it's like 5 or 10x revenue. That's not really going to happen. But how do you change it from 2 or 3x EBITDA to 2 or 3x revenue is getting to sufficient scale, and then also differentiating across channels. Do you have Facebook? Do you have Amazon? Do you have TikTok Shop maybe? Do you have a retail? That helps a lot. And then also building up a team where you're not just the one-man army. Like I said before, I could work 16 hours a day, do every single role in the business. That's ultimately not conducive for my mental health, for me burning out, and then also for selling the business. So I'm building to sell now, but also like that then requires me to change it in such a way where I think it's actually making me be a better operator, because I have to outsource some of the tasks and I have to start building an organization. And I'm more of a manager now than an individual contributor, which was kind of the opposite in the last case. So just like being on the marketplace forces you to be a better brand, even though it's fucking annoying. And I'm like, I wish I could just change all these things like Shopify did. But now it's actually forcing the product to be better, the business to be better, the experience to be better. Building to sell also forces you to actually think through things like an investor. And I know Hormozy has talked about this a lot. And if you do that and you think of it as an asset that cash flows and has enterprise value, how do you build that? Is actually the best way to build enterprise value is build a better business, right? That has less risk, higher upside, more stability.
At what point in the process, though, are you pivoting from it being white label drop shipped into the brand so you can continue scaling, but you've got the equitable value that you're talking about?
Yeah, so we've kind of started from the beginning where it was fully branded from the start. We had somewhat, it was not super custom. I mean, our last product was pretty white label. We've kind of gone with white label products from the beginning, which kind of broke a belief in my mind when I was looking at some of these exits, because I started to study that and I saw a lot of their products weren't that differentiated. Maybe there was a slight custom formula or this or that, but like in many cases, right, these products have already existed, these ingredients have already been used. There's a lot of brands that already existed, and you didn't need to come up with some crazy idea. It was really, like I was saying, can you just run a better business? Can you have better operations? Can you have better marketing? So we've never really done like the whole drop shipping from China completely undifferentiated. The product at its core has been similar, like other people could probably run the same product, but the branding around it, the messaging, all of that has been differentiated. And that's been from day one when we started. If you try to launch on TikTok Shop with like a completely unbranded product, it's probably gonna be pretty hard to stand out, because you kind of want to have a brand. The beauty of it though is in many cases you don't need to. You can just take that extra step, add the logo, change the packaging, change the branding design, and then you can have a core product that is the same as something you could find in China, but as long as it makes it look like a brand to the customer and you're presenting that and you're marketing in the right way, then you'll be fine from day one. And then you can actually scale that to, I think, pretty high.
How are you picking the exact product? How are you finding that?
Yeah, so I have a number of product research methods, which They're not super differentiated from everyone else. Like I'll use PP ads, I'll use Minea, I'll use the ad spy tools. We use a burner method, which is literally just making a new TikTok account and then you're scrolling on that and then you train your For You page by not looking at girls shaking ass or like memes or soccer videos. Like you only look at products. You like, share, comment. This is a pretty old method, but it still works because it's like you're just going to see, the method's old, but it's going to show you exactly what's new. The other way is just talking with other girls, moms, dads, brothers, whatever your target demo is. If you have any of those people in your life, like I went through my mom's medicine cabinet and I was like, holy shit, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here, right? The tech gadgets my mom was using for playing golf because she really loves golf. I was like, there's a bunch of products right here. So whatever your niche is, people kind of forget about the oldest product research method they used to do in the 50s was literally just talking to people. You would have like, you know, you can call people on the phone, you can do Zoom calls, you can text your friends, you can get on FaceTime and just ask them what they have in their closet, what have they bought recently, what are the ads they've looked at. At the other side of every TikTok and every ad is a actual human being. And in most cases, we don't know them, but in many cases, my mom buys from Facebook all the time. My girl buys from Instagram all the time. My friends buy from TikTok Shop all the time. So talking to those people. The other ones that I really love is Helium 10 works amazing for Amazon. Every Amazon guy already knows that. But if you're new to Amazon, I would highly recommend you can even look on Amazon for stuff that might work on Facebook, might work on TikTok Shop. You can bring it across platform. So even though it's the same product, the virgin eyes of the TikTok user, they've never seen it on Amazon, and then you can scale that way. The other one is exploding topics. This one's similar to Google Trends. I think these kind of go hand in hand. I actually like exploding topics better than Google Trends, which is showing you over whatever designated time frame, how has the search volume increased for a certain idea, trend, topic, and they also have products. So like you could have seen 5 years ago that saunas and ice baths and everything that Joe Rogan was talking about was starting to go crazy, red light therapy, and you're seeing as you're getting the hockey stick graph. A lot of people want to look when it's up here, you want to look when it's down here, and it's starting to just come up in the last like 3 or 6 months. And then you just have to think to yourself, is this going to last 3-5 years? Or is it going to last 3-5 months? Because I'm not here to drop ship trends. I'm here to like build real businesses. If you want to drop ship trends, you can. But if we're thinking like, is this part of a wider societal shift? So with the ice bath thing, it was like, ice bath might be a trend right now, but people want to be healthier. People want like the latest craze. The podcasters that are talking about it are only getting bigger. Like people are looking to holistic health, you know, natural remedies, alternative medicine. That's only getting bigger, and I'm seeing that with a bunch of other data points from my life and otherwise. So I think that this would be a longer lasting trend, and it kind of was.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, because at the end of the day, a lot of these younger people have been taught to build these dropshipping brands, but then they're riding like a trend for Black Friday, a trend for Christmas, a trend for Easter, like and you're basically, what you're saying is you've pivoted away from that model and you've gone into looking more long term, like what's going to give me some exitable value and what's going to give me a long enough runway to be able to sell this on to someone else. Because if you haven't got that, it's kind of like you're wasting your skills and you burn yourself out by keep building and then building again and then building again, and you've gone 5 years and your mate that just stuck at one niche, he's sold out for like 20-30 million.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen so many of my friends, and I have a lot of people who've made 8 figures with drop shipping, and they've done $1 million months and crazy amount of money, and they have all of the nice toys and everything like that. But they'll say behind the scenes, it's like they love drop shipping, but like they hate the hamster wheel. Like where every single time it lasts for another 3 months, and like your product lifestyle, maybe you get one product lasts for a year. It's amazing. But it's constantly doing new product research, new trends, starting new things. And then as a result, also, you only get to like a certain level of business where if you're constantly at like, because if you're thinking about like levels where you have to like move, at the highest level of level 10 of like $1 billion company, every business looks the exact same, right? You have a board of advisor, you have shareholders, you have CEO, you have C-suite underneath them, you have VPs underneath them, you have managers all the way down, right? And you're just managing people. That's why every CEO of any business, whether they're selling saunas or a service business or oil and gas, whatever, they're just taking meetings with the people under them all the way down, right? Now, you can never move up the ladders in that level of business, and that might sound like hell to you, but ultimately it's beside the point. Because if you're on level 1, which is just what do we sell, and then you get to level 2, which is like how do we market it, and then you get to level 3, which is what are the operations back end of it, and then level 4 is like building the team, and so on and so forth. But if every 3 months it's like, what do we sell, how do we market, oh, what do we sell, how do we market, and then you're doing this, you're only going from 1 to 3, 1 to 3, 1 to 3, back and forth, you never receive a higher level of business knowledge or competence or higher level of consciousness, some would say. And as a result, you're not compounding your skills, you're just doing the exact same thing. And you become the best Facebook marketer to run these pump and dump products, and the best person to find the pump and dump products and launch them. So your launch strategy, scaling up strategy, and product discovery is peak. But your management philosophy, sucks ass. Your inventory management, your operations, your back end, your finance, your HR, all the other functions of the business, which you then need to build up to go to a higher level. So all of a sudden, this is where a lot of the dropshipping people, they can make a lot of money, and then they try to build a software company, and it implodes in 6 months, and they just burn $50,000. And the only other thing they can really do is try and sell a course, maybe transition into an e-com brand. And then they're finding when they move from the dropshipping to the e-com brand side, even though it's e-com and it's the same thing, because with an e-com brand, you start from level 1 and you go linearly up from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, whereas dropshipping, you just go in a circle. Once they break past all the stuff they've done before and they're like, oh shit, I'm doing $1 million a month, and then I need to actually build all these functions, they've never done it before. So that is the reckoning moment for a lot of the dropshippers, is going to be, can I continue to push through and break through the barrier, or am I just going to go back to what I know because that's the easiest thing and I can make $100K profit a month, which is very good income, but like you said, you never get to the point where you sell for $30 million and then you can buy houses for your entire family, right? Which is a little bit different than, renting a Lambo in Dubai.
So what is the actual thing then, the one key ingredient that you think most e-com entrepreneurs are missing? What's the one thing that they're overlooking that they're not considering doing?
I think the one thing, for me, and I've seen it on my friends, is not a marketing tactic. It's not a strategy. It is like fixing yourself and primarily your focus. So Alex Becker taught this a lot, as well as Sam Ovens. And they both have achieved tremendous scale. Alex Becker sold his company for $100 million. If you look past Alex Becker's clickbait crypto videos, which he's been doing for the past 2 years, and you go back to his old videos from 5 or 6 years when he was building High Roast before he actually sold it for 9 figures, every single video had a completely different title, but ultimately the exact same thing was saying the same thing. Fix your inputs, fix your outputs. So if you can change the way that you're eating, the people that you surround yourself with, even the items that you're buying, the things that you're doing every day, the alcohol, the weed, the drugs you're consuming, there's a lot of focus on food, the actual physical inputs, then also the media consumption, the people that you're talking to, the thoughts that you say in your mind that will change your mindset, and then ultimately like your motivation and focus. And not only focus of like, can I do deep work every day, which you should be doing. You should figure out a way you can get into the zone. But then also focus across multiple business models. Because the beauty of online business is that anyone can spin up a business and get to 10K a month in a week or two, right? But otherwise, if you get stuck in that rat trap, you'll be running 8 businesses that do 10K a month instead of one business that does 800K a month, right? So the 100X relies on you doing one thing. Right? He didn't sell 10 businesses for $10 million. He sold one for $100 million. And like I was saying before, if you think about it, it compounds as you move up the levels in terms of your skill, your accomplishments, your ability to lead. It also compounds in terms of the success of the business and the multiples you can sell for. So it's not just the case that like your focus is split between these two. It's actually that you're building 2 smaller and ultimately will never be sold for nearly as much. Whereas if you just focused on one business doing $20 million a year is not worth 2x a business doing $10 million a year. It's worth 2.5, 3, 4x because it's that much larger. And then because you have that focus, you can then focus on building out all the different marketing channels. And then as a result, you're now in a 4 or 5x. So then it just compounds more and more and more. So it just makes more and more sense the more you think about it. Like unless you have a very specific reason, and I'm saying all this running 2 businesses, so it's a bit ironic because I have a very specific reason for it. Unless you have that, and last year I didn't, and I was running 8 different businesses, and the majority of them failed. I didn't have the skills. I had partners that like scammed me. I wrote multiple threads on this on Twitter. Like it was a nightmare. But this year I'm like, this is the focus. This is the side business. Those are the only 2. And ideally, if I wouldn't even want to have a side business. It's only because they work well together that I keep them. Ideally, you just have one. Like we're going back to the Jeff Bezos example, the 8 multi-millionaire streams of income, like he has that now, but like he did one thing for 20 years and only that, and he showed it to Amazon every single day, like that was his focus. So if you look at anyone else, Elon Musk runs 7 companies at a time, but he only ran PayPal himself at one time. Then he only ran Tesla, then he only ran SpaceX. Like he's added on companies, but to actually build his wealth, to get to 50, 100, $1 billion was one thing. So it's like, why wouldn't we follow the billionaires versus the guy making 10K a month who tells you to have 8 different businesses at the same time? So, yeah.
I'm glad you touched on this, right? Because Luca, I've been mentoring quite a few people throughout the back of this podcast, right? And what happens is when they come on board as a mentorship client, they tell me all these different things that they're doing. And what I do is I get them to understand what their window of competence is, where their skills are for a start. Understand where their skills are. We remove all the crap that they shouldn't be doing, and we get them to relentlessly focus on the actual one key task area. And not only that, we get them back in the gym, get them moving, get them eating healthy, and get them dialed in. Because most people think they've got a money problem, or they need more money, more this, more that. But you get more money when you get in the gym in the morning, when you got your habits dialed in, when you know what direction you're going in. And most people have no fucking clue what direction they're going. Even they might be earning 200 grand a month, but they might be stopping themselves from earning $1 million a month if they actually got dialed in. And I've seen this so many times. I mean, I'd estimate most people have about 30 to 100 grand a month of untapped revenue just because they don't fucking know which direction to go in.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I mean, and it's crazy because you will see people that can get to, like you said, they might be doing a 200K a month. You can get to a certain size of business with brute force, like literally just slamming your head against the wall, eating fast food, going out every night. I know friends that would like party 3-4 nights a week that were making 50K a month. They're in like a college town, so they're the king of the town, right? But if you want to move from being a big fish into a small pond to then moving to the small fish in that big pond and then growing up to be a shark in the water, swim with all the other sharks, there will be a cap. Right? So I think Hormozy has talked about this a lot as well, which is like a business is going to grow to the level of your incompetence. And that incompetence might be the marketing strategy, the tactic, the thing that everyone's looking for in the beginning. But most of the time, it's like, you're already smart enough. You can already figure it out for yourself. You don't necessarily need a course or a guru or a YouTube video or whatever. It's like, if you just stop eating fucking McDonald's, stop going clubbing every weekend, and then like, you don't need to work really 12 or 16 hours a day. You might in the beginning because you're doing everything yourself, but eventually you just need to think deeply about something, go for a walk, revisit a problem, think creatively, hire the right person. It's like a few key strategic things. Like, there are times where I grind it out every day and I just have to slam my face, do everything, especially the first month or two. But now I've kind of built a whole team very quickly. So I'm just like a manager. So I wake up and I have 50 DMs a day. So I have to mow through all of those. Then I have to do some deep work for 2 hours on the specific task that's a focus of the day. Then I have to go for a walk while I'm like walking my dog or something. So I have to think about, how are we going to get to X revenue goal in the next month? And then once I have that idea, how can I then parlay that to all my managers? Or are they going to parlay that to the people underneath them, right? So as you move up, again, from level 1 to, hopefully I will get to level 10, then it becomes less about just like doing the individual work myself, more about the deep work moments, talking with the individual people, so communication, and then also thinking. Because if we're talking about like a business, it's like, what is replicable and what is your unique advantage? And for me, it is the consolidation of my last like 10 years trying to make money online and 3.5 years in TikTok, such that I now have like a gut feeling, which is basically the AI of all my memories that is saying, don't do this thing, this is a red flag, whatever, or this looks like the great opportunity, which nobody else on the team has and would be very hard to change. Whereas making TikToks, I can farm that out. Managing people, talking to people, VAs, editors, all of that stuff, I can find those people, and I should still find the best editor and the best manager and the TikTok creators who are the best and most likely to go viral, but those people I can hire for, and then I can sit above. And if you're sitting above, then that dramatically changes your role, and it's less about, how much work can you actually put in and more about how clearly can you think. If you want to be clearly thinking, then you have to be working out, you have to be eating better, you have to change your inputs, you have to change your media diet, you have to change the people that you're around and level up the people that you're around, because they're going to be thinking differently as well, because they're also talking about the exit, or they're talking about their past and how they did that. And then as a result, it will trickle down for you. So I've had to change this. I've had to go through this for a year or two. It's very fucking hard. But that is kind of the necessary role switch, which changes over time to get to the next level.
Yeah, what you just literally said there is, in order to increase your capacity, you've got to be able to identify what road you're pursuing and then be able to remove the stuff that's holding you back from being able to take that one single road to get to the destination. And where most people fail is most people have no accountability to themselves. They think they do because they might earn 100K a month, or they might think they're doing well at 30K a month, or they might be doing 200K a month. But if you actually sat down with yourself and said, do you know what, can I turn over more revenue than this? Yes, I can. Okay, cool. Well, wouldn't it be your best pursuit to try and do that then, if you think you're in the vehicle to do it? And most people won't sit down and have that honest conversation. And it all comes down to that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty hard, because you will believe something so strongly when it could in fact be just your perception of reality. And I actually learned this from joining a frat in college, which I know everybody is hating on. Drop out of college, frats are lame, whatever, but I like to take learnings from odd places. It might be the homeless man or random person or whatever. So in this frat in college, we had like a pledge master who was basically the guy who barked the orders at everyone and would tell us, you have to do the push-ups, you have to do the planks, you have to drink all this stuff and other things I'm not going to talk about on the internet. But that guy, for 90% of what he was saying, he was just a drill sergeant, and I was like, yes, sir, I just need to get through it. And I was like, I fucking hate this guy, but like, we'll get through it. But as we got further along the process and he realized all the other kids who dropped, all the kids who couldn't make it, all the kids who thought, it's a weekend, what am I doing this for? And it was just me and a couple of my friends left by week 7, and we're going to week 8, week 9, week 10, and we haven't left yet. Then he starts imparting some wisdom. He said a lot of different things, but the main thing that he said to me was perception is reality, which is ultimately, it doesn't matter what you think, how you view the world, it's what other people's perceptions of you are. And the converse of that, which is also true, is that your perception may not be reality. It will be reality for you. So in terms of first impressions, how you perceive other people, how you view a relationship, a business partner, whatever, your perception will ultimately become your reality. But if you want to move to beyond the base level of understanding, then you need to actually understand what reality truly is. And I think most people will have like the rose-tinted glasses, and they will have the employee that sucks, but they were there with them from the beginning, and they were their friend, and they helped them out. And the reality is if you looked at it objectively, if you looked at it as an investor, if you looked at it from the outside perspective, you should fire that person immediately and then hire a new person. But because your perception of that person was tinted through all the past mistakes that they have done, all the things that you've come through because they were packing boxes with you when you started 3 years ago, but now they haven't fulfilled into the role expectations and responsibilities, then that needs to change. And that's one example. It applies for many different things, but I think ultimately seeing reality for what it is rather than your perception of it. But the hard part is understanding, because your own brain is going to trick you, which one's my perception, which one's reality. And the ultimate thing is it's somewhere in between, and you just have to look for the outliers where the reality is dramatically different. And this is usually going to be where you can use courses and gurus and consultants and friends and peers who can then take an objective look. And if you ask 3 other people, and I did this with my last brand, I asked 3 other guys who were older, wiser, and richer than me, and all of them said, Luca, you have the right skill set to blow things up on TikTok. Why the fuck are you selling vapes? This is a terrible offer. The product is bad. There's no differentiation. It's not a big TAM. You can't run any ads. Ultimately, that business kind of collapsed. We managed to exit at the last second. But if I had been working on a different product for those 3 years, I would have made more money. What happened? As soon as I sold that business, 3 months later, I launched a new product, and we scaled in 4 months to $1 million a month. Whereas that previous business had, at its peak, done $300,000 a month. So it took 3 years to do $300,000. It took 4 months to do $1 million a month. So all of them were right. My perception was, oh, well, this is my baby. This is my business I've been building for so long. I started with my friends, and I need to keep running it, and da-da-da-da-da. Juul's a $1 billion company. We can be like them. I was fucking delusional. And thankfully, I can see that now. But at the time, the only way that I knew to actually close that business down and move on to the next, rather than just keep running on the hamster wheel, was because I talked to those other people who then showed me the reality for what it is. They removed the fog, and then as a result, I became much richer and more successful from that point.
And it's getting over your own ego, isn't it? Because your ego is what's in the way of that. Your ego says, "Oh, I've invested so much time and so much energy and so much effort into this thing that I have to keep on the same path." But that path isn't leading you to what you say that you want. So you're actually holding yourself back from your own growth, and you start going in this little bit of a dance with yourself, and you start second guessing yourself. What I would say on what you've just said there is the fact of like, learning to trust your intuition and your gut and what your gut tells you is so critical, because I bet your gut for the longest time was telling you that that wasn't the right offer and that wasn't the right path, but you kind of probably ignored that and went with the head, right?
Yeah, because I was like, oh, why am I listening to my gut? Like, I need to be logical and think through this, and I can make all the arguments, and I could talk to all the people in the business who are obviously like the yes men who are working under me, or my partners who had been there from the beginning, so they had the same perception. And you can make the logical argument, your brain can trick itself, but ultimately, and this also helped me on the other side of consulting with people, was also trying to get to, and I learned this from when I used to do debate in high school, and I would debate a lot of people about like politics. Now I don't care nearly as much, but it would get into, we're talking about this subject up here, but ultimately we would be at odds with each other, and it wouldn't be about the problem that we're talking about. It would be that if you took a step deeper, and then a step deeper, and then you got to our base values, we fundamentally disagreed about something, which might be that we're talking about like, I don't know, income tax or something, and we can talk all day about the logical arguments, but fundamentally it's that some people think that greed is good, and some people think that greed is terrible. And if you cannot reconcile these ideas, which are the base values underneath your first principles ideas of like, should people be rich? Should people make money? Should people be successful in business? If you don't change that idea, every single argument layered on top of that then ultimately does not matter. So you're talking up here in the logical, but most people are actually making decisions from the emotional, right, from the heart. So the same thing can then be applied to my decision-making process, and this is what I had to go through as well. And I'm actually doing this for another business that's kind of failing right now, so it's kind of top of mind. is we are dealing with this problem with the business and we're trying to make this decision, which is like we have these two options, which one should we go to? And it's so hard because we can have the logical, we have the gut, we have the intuition, we have what other people are saying, all this different confusion. And we're up here. If we can move down to what are we actually doing this for? What is the base level, like greed, the fear, the lust, the desire for clout, for appreciation? I just want to be loved. I would not tell you how many entrepreneurs are, running up $100 million businesses because they just want to be loved and appreciated. Because a girl, when they were 12, that was their crush. They sent them the love letter, and then the girl laughed at them with all her friends. Or she went up to them, asked them on a date, but it was a prank. And then they still have that in their subconscious, and they replay it every night they go to sleep. And now they think, if I just build a big enough business and sell it for $1 billion, I'm going to get Susie from when, I was in 7th grade. And it's that spite. Or like a teacher said, you're never going to be shit, you're not going to make it, you're just going to be like your dad or something. Like, it is usually some base level emotion, some caveman brain ideology, some undiagnosed childhood trauma. And if you want to dive more into this, Charlie Morgan, his entire YouTube channel kind of goes into this, where he had a whole story overcoming with therapy and childhood trauma and whatever that actually unlocked, where he went to therapy and he made millions of dollars more. It's actually kind of a crazy story, but I had to do the same thing to see what is the whole point that I'm doing this for. And is it to actually like relive the idea that we had 3 years ago and build this product and it's my ultimate passion, I think that our vapes will change the world? Or is it like, I just want to be successful in business and build a bigger business and that's going to make me happier, and then I don't care as much about the product, which is more the realm that I've gone into, which is like, I'm not product focused, I'm marketing focused, I'm business focused. I love growing, I love building bigger things, I love making money, and I like helping other people around me make money, whatever we end up doing. And then once I got to the base emotions, then it became very clear to me, well, this option makes no sense. And then we had to switch completely. And then I was like, fuck, well, now I need to sell the business. And now I need to go the whole thing. And that was a tough 6 months. And my roommates, when we were living in Arizona last year, will say the same thing. But I'm so glad that I did it. So those two exercises were hugely important for me.
But it takes real balls to face yourself. This is what most people don't do. Most people think that everything is external to them, whereas it's all internal. I know even when I go through a breakup now, for argument's sake, I won't go external and try and start sleeping with other women and trying to cover it up and trying to mask it in all these other ways and trying to do all this other stuff. External. I won't do that. I'll go internal and I'll sit in the pain and I'll work out where the pain is and work within that. You have to do the same within a business, the same when you've got to make any decision in your life. You got to go, it's all about looking inside yourself, and there's all the answers that you need, not trying to get these external validations. Because like you say, if you spent all your life chasing this $1 billion exit or 10 million exit because you think that's going to validate you for something, a core wound that you've never addressed, that is a ladder against the wrong wall moment when you get there. Because I experienced that in boxing. Boxing to me was all about proving worth to other people. And when I went to world title level in boxing as a trainer, when I stood there next to Michael Buffer and he's saying, let's get ready to rumble, I'm looking out at 15,000 crowd and I'm like, holy fuck, I've lent my ladder against the wrong wall here. I'm empty. So I've experienced that at the highest of levels, and I know exactly what you're talking about when you speak into that. And I think you should be proud of yourself, mate, because at the end of the day, for you at your age to be able to look within and go, do you know what? This is fucked. This is not what I want. That's an amazing thing, bro. So you should be proud of yourself for that.
Yeah, I think the hard part, which was hard for me and for other people, is there's a lot of shame and discourse around like what should be the right reason, which is like all the people who are on podcasts like this or like on the internet, or like you might see it on like the Times, whatever, is like, oh, I had this crazy invention, I wanted to change the world, I want to do charitable and save all the Guatemalan farmers and all this like other stuff and like take care of my family and whatever. And like, you might just want to make a lot of money to like fuck bitches and do drugs. And it's like, if that is ultimately your goal, it's like, who am I to stop you? You know? And if you are trying to say to yourself at the end of the night when you go to sleep, you're like, oh, I wish I could find like a big booty Latina. But then you have to tell yourself, I'm doing this to save the world. I just care so much. And you don't, then that internal conflict is going to lead to an external issue, which is never going to be resolved until ultimately you can say to yourself, like, even though it is shameful, even though I can't really say this publicly to other people because they're going to make fun of me, or maybe you just don't care, so you will, which would be amazing, right? If you can deal with the fact that like you're just doing it to spite your teacher, or because, I mean, Hormozi talked about he had some difficulties with his dad when he was younger, and that was his driving force. If you can move past that shame and that embarrassment and just be honest with yourself and say like, hey, this is not like the most holier than thou. I'm not Mother Teresa. I just want to get rich to buy a yacht. Like, who cares? If that is your goal, ultimately you'll have that resolution in your mind. You'll understand where it's coming from. And then as a result, you will not have the internal conflict that will lead you to do self-sabotage and destroy your own business. And then you will just actually become more successful as a result.
Yeah, it's the honesty with yourself, being honest with yourself as to why you want it. Why do you want this? Why is it important to you? Why is that even the goal? Like that's the level of honesty you got to have. And it's about going through that 5 whys process until you get to the core reason you actually want it. And if that reason is something like you say, to try and impress that person from your past or this, that, and the other, then your ladder's laying against the wrong wall. And if we all just take these steps back, we can unlock so much information that we've never even conveyed to ourselves. And you don't go through life trying to cover up this bullshit, which is again, is powerful considering what you've been through and what you've learned in your time. Because now you're building something. Yeah, you want to make a lot of money out of it and you want to exit it, but at least you know now why you're doing it, Luca, which is a powerful thing.
Yeah, I think the hard part though is that it's not. There was that like kind of spiritual awakening. There was a time where I died, and there was the time with my last business when I was selling it. All of those were different pivotal moments, but it isn't like a black or white, like I was this and now all of a sudden I'm saved and I was like this. It's kind of like I went through this and I had this experience, so it pivoted me this way. But then I had a different one and it pivoted me that way. And I'm saying this all right now, but who knows in 3 to 5 years what it will be. So it's a constant challenge. It's a constant pushing myself to stay motivated, a constant pushing myself to understand. And it is difficult because you might have that understanding at one point. And then I've seen this with many people, especially in the tech startup world, where they raise a ton of money, they fully believe in the vision, they want to change the world, they want to build a big business. All of a sudden, it's 3 to 5 years down the line, they realize this is kind of a slog, we're not growing that much. I realize that, at the end of the day, I thought that when I was younger. Now that I'm a little bit older, I just don't like it anymore. And unfortunately for them, they're stuck in the unfortunate position that they have raised $100 million and they are indebted to their investors. So shutting down the company, returning all that capital, especially with all of your employees where you've been giving them options to buy your shares and they might be thinking about the house they're going to buy when you go public, which is now never going to happen. Then all of that is weighing on you because you thought you wanted something and probably you did at that time, and then it changes over time. So that is the difficulty. Is that it is a day by day kind of talking to yourself. And this is where like some gratitude, some meditating, some journaling, some walking in the park, where you're constantly reevaluating, not to an obsessive degree, not where you're going too crazy, but maybe checking yourself every month, every 3 months, every 6 months, even once a year at the end of the year review. Like, are all the things that I was doing this year, based on how I feel now, is that fully in line with my goals? And then also not beating yourself up for saying like, oh, I didn't see it, I was so dumb, I was so stupid. It's like, with the available information at the time, it was a tough decision, and you chose between a 51% and 49%. And sometimes you swing and you miss. But you don't have to go back and say you were so terrible. More so, I failed, I fucked up, I'm human. Now I've changed, now I've learned, now I've gotten better. And now we need to reevaluate, which is the important part, to pivot and change course slightly.
Yeah, and that reevaluation period doesn't have to be a period where you beat yourself up for it. It's like, just accept that these things didn't run. That relationship didn't work out. That business isn't for you. That sport isn't yours anymore. That served its purpose. Understand what served its purpose so you can actually move. And that all comes down to the radical honesty piece. And like you say, if you don't take yourself on the walks, the meditation and all the other stuff that no one else talks about on any other e-commerce podcast, they just talk about ROAS and scaling on TikTok Shop and all that stuff, but they miss out the kind of spiritual piece that you need to bring yourself back to understanding. I mean, like, you don't achieve what you've achieved in life unless you have that moment, because you'll never get to the number, or when you do get to the number, you'll find out you've lost every other area of your life, your health, your happiness, your girlfriend, your family. So it's not about pursuing something and it being about that or nothing else. It's about, how do I attain the goal, but also maintain every other area of my life that I know is important to me. And then when you break it down to that granular level, you can actually take yourself towards something meaningful, and get your exit and achieve all your financial goals. But you don't have to get tied up in all the bullshit of this story that you tell yourself that's not even true.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of not sacrificing all the other areas of my life, that's actually something that I've been struggling with a lot for the last 3 months, because I was building up this business, which was the primary focus. And then I was also traveling a lot, where I went to music festivals in Vegas and LA, and then Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Fire Island, Long Island, New York. I was seeing all these friends, family going on trips. So those two were already a ton. It was a lot on top of that. And then it's like, how can you maintain relationship with girls, with friends, with family, work out, eat healthy? Like, there's a million things once you start to stack up, and you're like, something is a priority, it needs to be prioritized over everything else. It means that you cannot have 8 things that are priority. You can have 1, maybe 2. So for the last 3 months, it's like then I couldn't go to the gym as much. I couldn't eat as healthy. I couldn't go on any dates. I couldn't talk with my family nearly as much. So then as soon as I came back, I was like, okay, well, let's spend some quality time, and now we have to make up for it. Now then we're back with the boys. Now let's go out with them. Now let's start going on dates again, and then we don't travel as much. But then if you're fully prioritized on your business and your business is saying to you, you could be scaling much harder. You could be 2 or 3xing if you just locked in and you didn't do anything else. So this is where then people started to popularize the idea of monk mode, which is they were kind of dealing with the same struggles that I am, which is that there is no prioritization. And if you try to excel in every area of your life, you will ultimately be a jack of all trades, master of none. So that's where instead of doing it where you would have 1 priority, then 2, then 3 static throughout the entire year, you would have, let's say in the winter in New York, nobody's really going out. There's not really parties. There's not much going on. So I could force myself to go on dates. I could force myself to go to these events. I could force myself to see all my friends. But rather than doing that, I would do that in the summer, where right now it's actually difficult to have 3 or 4 invitations every single weekend. Whereas in the winter, it's like you have to DM every single friend just to go to a single party. It becomes way easier. Well, then maybe now is the time where I should be focused on that area of my life. And then in the winter, I should be focused on more locking in on the business, health, and wellness. And then maybe in the spring, it's more focused on my family. So you go through different seasons, and ultimately that's one way that I think has been popularized, and I don't really ascribe to monk mode. I do like nightmare modes, which are sprints where you will just lock yourself in your room for, I usually do 1 to 2 weeks, and I just DoorDash food. I don't interact with anyone socially. I barely use social media outside of like what I do for my business. And then all I do is work for those 2 weeks, and then I get a dramatic amount done. Rather than what would be done in 2 months, I do it in 2 weeks, and I isolate from everyone else. And then when I come out, well, now I can go to the gym again. Now I can see my family. So using time as a variable rather than priority, that's one way. I haven't really seen other ways, but that is something that I've been kind of struggling with, and I haven't really found a specific solution. That's kind of the current situation that I'm dealing with.
I think you kind of just, everyone has to play their way and find out what works best for them. Some people might train in the morning, feel elite. Some people might work for a week, not even leave the room, and then go back to training for the next 3 weeks. Whatever works for you, pick your poison, but just pick a direction and stick to that framework and ride that out, and make sure that that's working for you, and get the right framework in. Because every successful entrepreneur or e-com guy that I've met, you know, Davey Fogarty and all that stuff, they all have a routine, and the routine equals the results that they get. Simple as that. I mean, what is the biggest thing that you learned from Davey Fogarty from being around him?
I think the level of standards. Like, he just operates at a higher level of excellence with almost everything he does. Like, if you just look at his YouTube videos, they are just better. Like, the production quality is up there. The level of information, the amount of research, the preparation, even for our interview. It's like, I'm showing up with this as my background. He's in, like, some stone mahogany 1800s library, and it looks absolutely insane. He's got, like, the 4K quality, and he's come prepared with the questions, and ahead of time, he was doing everything. And then when I've talked with him on the agency side, then he has the virtual assistant who's on point. He has the executive assistant who's on point for scheduling. And that level of excellence and the standards he set across not just him, not just across his business, but the employees he's working with, the people that he's involved with, the other business ventures that he's doing, where he knows that, like, I have to maintain these standards. And ultimately, it's like, I thought I had that. Everyone is like, I only hire A players. I only work with the best of the best. I hire this thing. But it's like, I'm working with some $5 an hour VAs, and he's playing with, like, the people who've got, like, the full-time MBAs coming from Harvard or whatever the Australian version of it is, people who've ran $10 million, $20 million businesses. Those are his assistants, right? So, like, the level of standards, the excellence that he sets across the board, like, once I saw that and I had interacted with him across a variety of venues, I was like, no wonder this dude has built the Hoodie to be an insane business, where you could look in and be like, oh, well, they were just doing some crazy product and these little designs, and he was good at Facebook, whatever. It's like, there's a lot of people who are doing that. There's only one Davey. Like, there's 4 sharks on Shark Tank in Australia, and he's one of them. Like, that is an insane accomplishment, and I think it's because of the excellence that he holds everyone and himself to day in and day out.
I had the privilege of bringing Davey Fogarty into podcasting, so I was the first one to ever get him on a podcast and talk him into doing it. And I've seen his whole evolution of self, and I've had him on twice now. And honestly, one, he's a cracking guy, but like you say, the way he approaches excellence is something to behold. In terms of, like, okay, this is how he turns up, this is how he articulates himself, this is how he gets across a point. I've watched his evolvement in the way that he speaks, go from, like, you know, baseline low level to now a great communicator. And he's someone that I think a lot of e-commerce entrepreneurs has to look to model, because that's the kind of trajectory that you want to go on. And like you say, he's employing all those back end roles to fill in all those gaps. So anything that he's not good at, he's filled it in with someone behind him that's better at it than him. And he's always seeking to learn and understand from people like yourself, what doesn't he know about TikTok Shop that you know, and how can I learn that in the fastest possible way? And that's something I learned from him as well. It's like, ask, be willing, no matter what level you are. That this geezer turns over 500 million a year or more, right, on multiple brands, but he's still willing to DM you and say, hey, what is it I don't know about TikTok Shop? Tell me, give me that lesson, because I want to learn it. And that's the truth. When you're at that level, and then I see people in Dubai who are earning like 8 million or 3 million a year, and they think they're God's gift to the sunshine, and they won't even ask anyone a question. And it's like, but I know that the top of the game ask questions, and they're willing to learn from all levels. So that's what I've learned from him on a personal level. I suppose you see that as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's sort of reinforced where in my mind, where some of the people who are the best of the best, it's because they talk less and they listen more. And it's less hearing themselves speak. And even when they do speak, they might be the most eloquent and the most articulate and the most knowledgeable in the room. But they understand that the only way to stay at the top for so long, consistently across all these different avenues, is to consistently learn from people who might be doing less revenue or beneath them or less followers or younger than them. They're like, well, I have so much to learn from them. So I think that's why it's been a huge partnership, where I've learned so much from Davey. Hopefully he's learned a little bit from me, and he can blow up on TikTok Shop. But that's really kind of recalibrated what it takes to get to, and then also stay at that level.
The one thing I want to ask you about TikTok Shop before we go is, I want you to give me the framework that these guys can use, that they should give to the creators, to make sure that the content that the creator creates is on point. So that, because obviously you've learned that framework over time. What is that framework?
Yeah, so we call this a creator brief, which is the encapsulation of everything around your brand that is specific to this creator, to give them as much information, viral videos, and everything that they will need to give them the highest probability that they're going to go viral and make you money. So it starts first with the product, a basic explanation of what the product does, if there's any ingredients, if there's any technology, skincare, whatever else, any studies that will back up any marketing claims, because then you're going to move into angles. What are the ones that work the best? Who are we speaking to? The demographics, the psychographics. What do those people watch, listen to, especially on TikTok? What are the channels that they might watch? How would you talk to them? And especially if you have video examples, that would work even better. And then you get into the viral videos from either an existing product that is very similar to yours, like a competitor, an existing product from a video that has been made for your product. So you're really starting like the smallest, the closest to whatever you already have. So your product, competitor products. Then you might move out into a category. So like larger tech gadgets and products on TikTok Shop. Then you might move out beyond that to larger tech in your category on TikTok, and then potentially other influencer videos where they can take inspiration. Like I said before, creators are creative at the highest level, but you're going to be dealing with people that are really good and then people that have never made a video in their life before. So it needs to work for all of them. And typically, you will give less direction and less management to the people who are at the highest level. So I like to give the most, because they can take a couple pieces, just read the viral videos, and then not ignore everything else. And for the people that need it, they will have the vast majority of everything. So start with the product, the demographics, the angles, then the viral videos. Usually we do around like 5 to 10, and they should be probably 2 or 3 per angle. So if you have like 3 angles, you have 3 videos per angle. We have probably like 8 or 9 angles, so it's like 1 or 2 video per angle. And then once you have that brief, we then also send them, if there's like studies that they need to read, there's research papers, there's Google articles, then we'll also update that every month. So a lot of people will make the brief, and the brief will be great. And then it works for the first month or two, and then it starts to die, and they don't update it. They don't add new scripts, because we'll also give scripts to people. So ultimately, you start with that brief, which is the page, and you don't want to give them much more than that for the first couple weeks, and you see how that goes. As people are posting, then you can update that, give new videos. And I would highly recommend as well, if one of your creators is cooking and they're doing well, share the wealth. We'll have one creator do really well, and they might do $80,000, $90,000 in GMV, and then we have other creators copy their videos and just make new versions of it, and then we can rinse and repeat. Because once you find that winning formula, you can run the same type of video for 3 or 6 months at a time. Similar to like a VSL on Facebook, you just need to swap out the scripts, swap out the audio, change the person who's making it, and by giving it to 10 other creators, they're automatically going to create those variations.
I love that. I love that, Luca. I love the fact that this podcast, you've broken down like all the elements that you need in TikTok Shop to make it work. But I also love the fact that you've brought it back to the mindset and how important it is to get your mind right, and the framework you have to look at things within, and being able to go inwards as well. Because I think this is so important that people miss. And a lot of e-commerce podcasts that I talk about, we haven't got to that point because I think they're not as aware as what you are. But I think just hearing your awareness of self enough to know when things are right for you and when things aren't, and just being able to differentiate what those are, I think that's been really powerful today. But I love to ask this question at the end of every podcast because I think it allows the guest to really articulate the key lesson that they want everyone to take away from this, right? So I ask this, Luca, if there's one piece of golden wisdom you can leave and impart on this audience, right? And you can't leave anything else. You can't leave no frameworks, no e-commerce stuff, but you can just leave one piece of advice that will move this audience forward 1% from today. What would that be to you?
Okay, so I can only say one thing. I would have to say the only way that you fail is by giving up. Like, I view business not in any one business, not any one side hustle. I view business like Warren Buffett, where he was trading stocks when he was 7 years old, and now he's like 97 or some shit. It is the only game that you can play for your entire life. If you're really good at soccer or football or basketball, you can do that from the time you're 5 until maybe you're 35. Then you have to retire. And then you watch some of these players, they're shooting basketballs and they're old, and it's kind of done. Even if you're talking about fitness and weightlifting, if you look at Ronnie Coleman, he can barely stand because he's been lifting weights for so long and he's only 65. Business is the one game where it never ends until the day that you die, and you can just keep working and never retire. So if you think about that on a long time frame, that the only way, if your business is struggling, if you're failing, if you're starting, the only way that it actually does not work is not when your business goes bankrupt, because that business failed, but you did not fail. Your career did not end. Then you could just start another one. It's easier than ever to start another one. And also, if that then transpires to how you handle other people, how you deal with relationships, and how you treat everyone around you, if you think I might be working with these people for 90 years as opposed to 90 days, how is that going to change the way that you handle that interaction?
Mate, that last bit is powerful. If you just change the time frame of how you look at working with people, that is the killer right there. That bit. I love the other piece as well, but that bit really resonated with me, because it's like, if you play long-term games with long-term people, you're going to get the best things in all areas of your life. And guys, do me a solid favor. I'll put Luca's details below this podcast. Give him a follow. I'll put his Twitter and I'll put his Instagram as well. And Luca, thank you very much for dropping this value. And guys, subscribe to this on every platform. Let me know how this episode landed with you. I hope it adds value on how you can use TikTok Shop, but also how you can look at how you use your mindset and look inward to move yourself forward in all areas of your life. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and much love. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Drop a comment below and let me know who you'd like to see on this podcast next. Quick one for you guys. As you know, over the last 6 months, I've been taking on many mentorship clients, and they've had some phenomenal results. Some of them 5x in their revenue, some of them 10x in their revenue, and some of them going way beyond that. But don't take my word for it. Here's some of my previous mentorship clients' results.
Hey everyone, my name is Rosa Kobani. I'm 24 years old and I've made over 8 figures online. The best people I've met are always investing in themselves. What I learned through working with Frankie is I can give some money to this person who has met virtually every major influencer in the world. You actually get a snippet of every single major player he's met and worked with. And Frankie, you made me an extra 200K within a few meetings. So bro, thank you for that.